Eighth graders, you have 10 minutes right now, 10 minutes to be working on page 42. If you need a refresher, remember, we were taking the bigger divided by the smaller. What's going on? Yes, page 42. This wraps up the section that we are doing before the quiz. So you need to be finishing that up today. Page 42 in your packet. This is the last page. So pages 1 through 42 will hold all the information you need for this quiz tomorrow. And we'll talk about that quiz in just a few moments. Going to go over page 42. So first of all, last week we started number 13. Remember, we took the big divided by the smaller one. How many times larger is the diameter of the dish than the diameter of the bacterium? This is our quotient of power property. So be sure you remember that when we are dividing by the same bases, what do we do with the exponents? Subtract them. It's always top minus the bottom. So we write our base. We have -4, your voices should be off, minus what? -16. So the first thing that you should notice with our integer rules is that we have to keep, change, or keep, switch, or add the opposite. So we're going to switch these here. This is -4 plus 16. What is -4 plus 16? 12. I would suggest just leaving it like this. How many zeros does that mean? 12 zeros, right? That's a lot of zeros. So you could leave it like this.
1 trillion.
It's 1 trillion. All right. The table shows the diameter of two objects. How many times larger is the diameter of a pinhead than the diameter of a cloud water droplet? Well, they're already telling us which one is larger. They told us the pinhead, right? Oops, I'm writing in the wrong spot. Pinhead up here. Divided by water droplet. So how would we write this as an exponent? Well, how many places does our decimal have to move from the 1? 1, 2, 3. So that makes this 10 to the -3. If you didn't know how to count zeros this way, then you could read the decimal properly, right? We would say 1 what? Then we count our place values, tenths, hundredths, thousandths. We would say 1,000. This is 1,000. So I would say 1 over, what would my denominator be? 1,000. So now I would have 1 over 10 to how many zeros are there?
3.
The third. And in order to write that as a negative exponent, I would flip it, right? Does that make sense? Mm-hmm. You should be able to go one way or the other, right, Grace and Alyssa? We're focused here. You have a quiz tomorrow. So I'm going to take my bigger 10 to the -3rd divided by my smaller 10 to the -5th. And I'm going to set it up the same way I did here. Our quotient of power says that we are subtracting our exponents. So I have -3 minus a -5. Keep, switch. This is 10 to what power? 2. That's 2 zeros. We could easily write that, right? 10 times 10, 2 factors of 10 is what that means, right? All right, without evaluating, order these from least to greatest. Well, what do we know about negative exponents? They have to go to the basement. So if our denominator is really big, it's probably a pretty small number. What do we know about to the power of 0? It equals what? 1. And what do we know about positive exponents? It's pretty big, right? As long as that number is greater than 1. So from least to greatest, what would be the least?
5 later.
Good, because this is less than 1. 5 to the power of what? 0 is 1. And 5 to the 4th. So if we were explaining, we would say this is less than 1. This is equal to 1. And this is greater than 1. That puts them in order pretty easily, right? 1's less than 1, 1's equal to 1, 1's greater than 1. What does everything to the power of 0 equal? 1. You know that? You'll get at least 2 right on the quiz tomorrow. All right, explain how to find this value. Well, I have to take the multiplicative inverse of that. So I would have to flip it. Or I have a power to a power. So this would be 1 to the, I don't know why I'm writing minus. This would be 1 to the power of -3. So what is 3 to the -2 times -3? Oh man, you guys remember our power of a power rule? So we have 1 here, right? Because the reciprocal of 1 is 1. 1 to the 3rd is still 1, right? 1 times 1 times 1. What's -2 times -3? 6. 1 over 3 to the 6. So it becomes a fraction. Or you're like flipping this. To take the opposite. But then it's 3 to the -2, which means you have to put it in the basement. It's a little bit crazy, Tom. So I would suggest power of power, right? Where we multiply our exponents with power of power. We multiply this exponent and that exponent. That one's a little trickier. Determine if the following numerical expressions are equivalent. Explain your reasoning. Well, all of this to the 0 power is what? Anything to the 0 power is what? 1. So this is 1 raised to the 3rd power. What's 1 raised to the 3rd power? 1. All of this is being raised to the 0 power. So what is that? Also, oh, it's 1. Are these equivalent? Yes. It's equivalent. All right, determine if the following statement is true or false. If a number between 0 and 1 is raised to a negative power, the result is a number greater than 1. So if it's less than 1, so let's pretend it's 1/2. That's less than 1, right? It's between 0 and 1. And I raised it to a negative power. Say I raised it to -2. What do I have to do to this fraction before I have 2 factors of it? I flip it, right? It becomes an improper fraction, 2 over 1. It becomes 2 squared. So for this, is the result greater than 1? Yes. So yes, reciprocal or multiplicative. There's our big word, multiplicative inverse becomes a factor greater than 1. So if our multiplicative inverse is a factor greater than one, our whatever we raise it to is going to be greater than one. Numbers greater than one get bigger when we have exponents. Numbers less than one get smaller. All right. So I want to do a couple things. I want to review with you where you need to go if you're behind, if you're struggling. So Google Classroom, #1 source for you. Everything can be found through your Google Classroom. So when I click on second hour here, and I follow the classwork tab, see you're going to have this exponent rules quiz. It's not there yet. I'm gonna drag that down here. You're going to be doing that tomorrow. If for some reason the link isn't working, there will be paper copies. But I would suggest having your Chromebook with you tomorrow because in quizzes, you will have the opportunity to take it 3 times, okay? That's your retake for the marking period. Because the end of the marking period is on Thursday, but you'll have those opportunities to retake it. So after the 3rd time, like that's your grade, whatever your highest grade is what you get. So if you're behind, you can look here. We started this, where did we start it? We started this on 9/15. So if you missed it, you can go back through. All of these have videos and catch up on every single day that you missed. You don't have to worry about those days, but every one of these has videos that you can watch to get caught up with, okay? So the other thing that you need to do before the end of the marking period, aka Wednesday or Thursday, because you won't be able to do it tomorrow, I will not be here. You've had most of the marking period to do so. But if you want to retake a quiz, you can read this. Be sure you've completed your packet and understand how to complete the example problems. At this point, I'm really more worried about your corrections and showing all steps. So if you don't have the quiz, because you discarded it, and you need it to make corrections, today would be a great day to get that from me. Or otherwise you'll have to get it on Wednesday and have it done by Thursday so that you can retake the quiz Thursday morning. So you could do those things before school if you let me know, during Trojan time, during lunch, during after school tutoring, I guess, on Thursday. Okay, questions? So tomorrow, you'll be taking the quiz. It's in quizzes. When you are done, are you allowed to talk and do whatever you want?
Yeah.
Absolutely not. It's going to be a silent hour tomorrow, so either bring a book to read, you can grab coloring materials, please use them responsibly. Remember to grab the whole thing, take it to your table, return the whole thing back, use them appropriately, please. Yeah, they're good people now. So we have several minutes. My suggestion with those several minutes is to review this. So let's kind of walk back and how I would review this packet so you're prepared for tomorrow. So looking at after, we are only through here. You should hopefully, oh my gracious, please turn it on. We should know all of these things. So real quick, as you're checking your understanding on this first page, do you know how to write numerical products as powers? What are products? 2 factors. So if I have 5 times 5, can you write that as a power? Yeah. I hope so. you should be able to evaluate powers. So if you had 5 squared, hopefully you wouldn't say 5 times 2, right? You would have 2 factors of 5, which is 5 times 5. Multiply numerical and algebraic powers. That's our product of powers rule. Says that we can do what with our exponents? No. No. Add them. Dividing powers, numerical and algebraically. That tells us we can do what with them? What were we just doing with them today, Noah? Subtracting our exponents. Finding powers of numerical and algebraic power. Finding powers of numerical and algebraic products. So this is power of products and product of powers. So I want you to be sure you're understanding those. Simplifying expressions with negative exponents. Remember, those negative things have to go to the basement. We have to flip it. Reciprocal, multiplicative inverse, flip, flip, flip. And 0 exponents. Everything raised to the 0 power is equal to, what is it? 1. Please know that. All right, so if you could not say that you know it for all of those things, besides these last 2, because we haven't gotten to them yet, then you need to go back through here and figure it out. Remember, you have both the videos, right? You guys are course 3, reveal course 3, so there's a whole playlist that you can access. 1-1, 1-2, 1-3, and 1-4. Here we go through 1-4. So you should know how to write this. You should know how to evaluate these things. We should know how to simplify these as exponents, whether it's with a number or with a letter. That's algebraically. Okay, so page 7. We actually were evaluating by multiplying. All right, make sure we know how to do these. Evaluating them. Remember how we evaluated them by putting in those numbers for our letters? We practiced a lot of that before we started this module. Lots and lots of practice, guys, went into this. So go back through, make sure you know how to do pages 11 and 12. Multiplying, product of powers. Remember, we have to add. We had to add our exponents, both with a number and algebraically. Right? So here would be algebraically. Here would be algebraically. Make sure you have good notes so you can use them tomorrow. Remember what we do with our coefficients. That business in the front has to be taken care of, right? We have to multiply them. Same here. We had to multiply them. And then we could add our exponents when our bases were the same. Quotient rule. Remember, we were subtracting our exponents. Guys, if you've forgotten any of this or you missed any of this, this packet is very basic. It takes you through all these steps. We did a lot of step-by-step explanation and walking you through this. When we're dividing like bases, ladies, when we're dividing like bases, always take the top minus the bottom exponent. Right? Remember sometimes we have different bases. We have to combine the same bases. Make sure you're only applying the exponents that have the same base to each other. What else can we do? A whole lot, right? So the coefficients here, remember we have to deal with those. That fraction bar means divided by. Grace, bring me your phone. Then why are you acting like you are?
You should have you.
All right, computer science. We talked about highest exponents, making bigger numbers. When we have a whole number, we added exponents here on page 22. Pages 23 and 24, you should know what to do for those. So go back through your practices and be sure you're understanding those. That's when we tried those. Powers of monomials. All right, here, do you remember what we did? We multiplied the power. So we have power of a power 2 to the 4th and x to the 3 times 4. We have to understand those things. Lots and lots of practice. So here, you should also know how to do pages 31 and 32. Right? If you don't remember, go back and review these. Remember how to use a calculator. You can use a calculator tomorrow if you need it. No, I'm just kidding. Yes, for real. All right. And then what we have been working on over and over and over again is this zero and negative exponents. They can be a little tricky, right? Subtracting a negative. We have to remember our integer rules. But anything to the power of 0 is what? 1. Anything to the power of 0 is 1. That's page 35 here as we're moving through. Negative exponents have to be flipped. You should be able to reverse it either way. And then your last two pages, 41 and 42, you should have those completed. Okay, so I don't want you to worry about turning anything in tomorrow to the sub because your quiz is on paper. It's not on paper. It's in your Chromebook in quizzes. I don't. So you're gonna follow that link and be sure you're understanding using your packet to answer the questions. Okay. On Wednesday, we'll turn in the part of the packet we've completed. We will be sure you know what's going on. We're going to start moving on to the rest of the packet. Okay. So when's your quiz? Tomorrow's your quiz. What's expected of you tomorrow? Silence. It's the end of the marking period, so I'm sure you can probably fix something in another class. If you're all caught up and have all A's, grab a coloring sheet, read in your IDR books, do something relaxing, right? But don't pester each other or the sub. Okay? So the only reason you would turn anything into the sub tomorrow is if you don't have your Chromebook or the link's not working. There will be hard copies of the quiz, okay? Okay. All right, you got about, I don't know, 9 minutes. So look through your packet, make sure it's done. Now would be a great time to be sure you're finishing up your packet. All right, quiz tomorrow, quiz tomorrow, quiz tomorrow.